Let's take a look at MIDI clips and audio clips inside of Ableton. We have two MIDI tracks set up here, and we're able to make MIDI clips inside of the MIDI tracks. And to do that from the arrangement view, which is the view that we're looking at right now, there's a number of different ways. So we could select the area in which we would like to have the clip placed. And obviously holding left click and dragging is how we do that. If you want to have narrower time that you can select, then you can just right click on the grid and change the time division. So let's make a 1 bar MIDI clip. So select 1 bar, and I can go Control Shift M on my keyboard, and it drops a MIDI clip in. This is what a MIDI clip looks like. And we've got two MIDI channels, and you can see when I make a MIDI clip on this MIDI track, it's the same color as the MIDI track. If I make one up here, Control Shift M, now it's light blue. Okay, so that just corresponds. We can right click and we can color it whatever color we would like to. So another way to put a MIDI clip inside of a MIDI track is select the area, right click and insert MIDI clip. We can also just double click where we'd like it to go. And there you go, we've got one. And there's also the sort of more slow and old school way of doing it, where if I select the area and I go create, I can insert a empty MIDI clip in that way. But I don't recommend that method as it's slow. So the quickest way, double clicking or just Control Shift M, boom, you've got one. And you'll notice that when I select over here, the bar sort of disappears and we've just got no clip selected. It's because on the timeline, we're clicking on an area where we don't have a clip selected. We can select a clip by either clicking at the start of it, right? Or clicking up here on where the title would be if we'd given it a title. That's how we select it. And if you're not seeing this, remember there's two tabs down here. You've got the instrument or effect device view, and then you've got the clip view here. So this clip view is universal for an audio clip or for a MIDI clip. So let's click on that, and we can press Z on our keyboard to zoom in on the length of that clip. And we can also come down here and place our cursor over this area where it turns to the two opposing arrows, and we can click and we can drag that up so that we can actually see what is going on. So a MIDI clip, when selected, generally shows a piano roll, okay? If you've got a drum machine or drum rack rather, on the MIDI channel, then it won't show you the piano notes. It'll show you like the drum hit names. So there are some sort of differences when you're using various different devices. But if you're just on an empty MIDI channel and you're making an empty MIDI clip, it's just gonna have a piano roll like so. And you can see that we've got the time up the top. So this is a 1 bar MIDI clip, and you can see that by looking here as well. So you can see the start position and end point, right? So start and end, starting at 111. So yep, that's where it's beginning, and then ending after a certain period of time. So the length of this particular clip is 1 bar, and we can come in here and we can actually change the length by clicking that and dragging it up. And we can deselect the loop, and this enables the actual clip endpoint, and we can change the length of the clip as well, right? So I'll just set that back to how it was. Just to quickly give you an idea of how looping works on the arrangement view, which is different to how it works in the session view, is if I activate loop here and I click and drag that out, actually I'm going to set the length of the loop down to, I'll just change that to 1. I'll type 1 on my keyboard and press enter. Then if I actually drag loop like so, you'll see that there's a little sort of black marker appearing there. That means that that clip is the total length of the clip, and then that is a looping of it, looping of it, looping of it, looping of it, right? So if I deactivate loop, that doesn't happen, right? So we have to have loop activated, and we can set the length of our loop here. So if we wanted a 4 bar loop instead, we could change that, and now you'll see that it happens every 4 bars rather than every 1 bar. Let's change that back to 1 bar. And you'll see that that goes back to how it is. We can change the starting position of the loop, and we can change the starting position of the actual clip itself. But generally, as a beginner, you're going to get really confused by doing that because it's going to make it go wonky. So it's probably best to always keep these set as 1-1 to start with. And once you really get a handle on what's happening, because it's very easy to do this, and then what the hell, like what's going on here? Like, I've got all this space, I've got a clip, what the hell? So yeah, we can crop the clip if we do run into a problem like that, right? And we just snap back to just having this one bar of MIDI clip, and then we can select the loop again, and there we go, we're back to normal. So yeah, you can get out of control. And by the way, you can put your cursor over this bar here, and you can zoom in and zoom out on the MIDI clip. Here we've got the timing of the MIDI clip. So we can have different timing to what's set up here, which can also be confusing for a beginner. Experiment by all means, but you can get lost pretty quickly, and maybe the quickest way to reset and get back to default is by, if we go and change all of this stuff and we're very confused about what's going on, we've got like this crazy clip, just delete that sucker and start again. Double click, boom, we're back to normal. Cool. So we've got the ability to add groove to MIDI clips as well. And groove is a bit more of an advanced feature that we won't really talk about right now, but this is where groove would show up. We can also do something very, very nice for beginners. We can go scale, and we can lock the MIDI clip. Well, we're not locking it. We can still draw notes outside of that, but it's highlighting and showing us which notes are actually in key for the track. Okay. So next what we'll do is we'll look at actually drawing in notes. So we're in C major. Let's go ahead and draw a note. So we don't draw notes by selecting anything in this area. We have to select inside of the clip where the timeline begins. So we want to draw a 16th note MIDI on C. Okay, so we'll just double click. Okay. So I double click and I get rid of it. I double click to get it again. And now we've got this clip. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a MIDI clip that is an 1/8 note long, and we're going to pop that on E. And I'm going to start it at 1.2, right? So this is the first beat of the bar. This is the second beat of the bar. So I'm going to draw E on the beginning of the second beat. Double click. There it is. 1/8 note long. Okay. What happens if I am on the 16th grid, but I want to make an 1/8 note? So let's get rid of that. I can double click, and I can actually come to the end of the clip here, and I can click and drag it to make it an 1/8 note long. Okay. And if I want to then move this clip around, I can select it, so by clicking on it and holding, and I can drag this around. Okay. So I can move it, and it's going to snap to the grid. So right clicking, I can change the grid divisions, or if I want to be fancy, I can actually hold Alt on my keyboard and I can put that wherever I want. That temporarily deactivates the grid lock, and it just allows me to drop it there where it would be slightly out of time. But maybe that's the feel that I want for this particular piece of music that I'm writing, or the sound design that I'm making. So I can move it around as well with the arrow keys, up, down, roundabout, right? Once I've got it selected. So they're the basic features or functions of how you draw it in. I can also use the pencil tool up here, and I can draw in notes like that. I just click and drag, right? So if I wanted to deactivate some of the notes, I could select this note, for example, and press 0. And now it's zeroed out, and it no longer shows actually up here on the arrangement view. So if I select that, now it's there, now it's gone, okay? So this won't actually play, and this is like how I could sort of play around with an idea, and maybe I just wanted to quickly okay, how does it sound with that note dropped out or dropped in, rather than actually deleting it altogether. So that's pretty cool. So re-enable that. Jeez, language. And what I'll do is I'll click on the timeline and I'll go Control A, and this selects all of the notes. I've got some features here that I can use, and this basically half times everything or double times everything, whichever way you want to look at it. And this does the opposite, right? So this doubles the length, this halves the length, okay? Double length, so it makes the notes longer than what they were. Cool, I'll come back to that. I'll right click. I don't want all this space here, so I'm gonna go crop, and we're back to looking at it as it was. We can also reverse everything. So we take it and flip it around. We can reverse again to put it back how it was. We can invert. So we're taking the ones at the top, putting them down the bottom, vice versa. Boom, there we go. Cool. And we can legato. So what legato does is if I actually delete some of these notes here, if I hit legato, what it does is it draws the note and it basically extends the note until it hits another one. So as you'll notice before, if I go Control Z, this note was short, but it was extended out to there where it hits the next note. And this will extend out to there where it hits the next note. There, so on and so forth. So let's do it again. Legato, cool. It's just lengthening them until they hit one another. I can hit duplicate and it basically just copies everything across. And then I can crop that to get rid of it. Then I can actually randomize the velocity of all of these. So when you just draw something in using your mouse, it just all pops in here at 100 velocity, okay? But I can hit randomize, and actually if I go Control A to select everything, I can randomize them all, and you'll see that the values of all of these have just randomly changed. And I could do that because maybe I'm listening to what's playing and I want to get like an interesting feel from the instrument using the velocity. And then we've got the ability to actually draw envelopes inside of a MIDI clip. And we haven't covered envelopes or modulation yet, or automation. So we'll leave that for the automation and modulation video. So we won't be touching this, but this is where you can access those features. And then here, we haven't talked about note expression either. We'll be doing a video separate to this one on that. And this is where you would manipulate the note expression. So that's the MIDI clip in a nutshell. Let's drop that away and we'll quickly actually look at it in the session view, and then we'll jump over to audio clips. So if I click on the title, actually one thing I didn't show you is I can go Control R and I can call this clip, and it puts the title over here, right? So I can give it a name, and that can help me just organize my project. So I'm going to click and hold so that I've got that selected and I can drag it around. I'm going to press Tab, and I can actually drop this MIDI clip into the session view like so. And what's different? Well, nothing really. Nothing's different. Except for obviously the way that we're sort of looking at it. Now we're seeing this view. I can enable loop here, press play, and it's just going to keep looping this over and over again. Deactivate loop, it just plays as one shot. What we do have in the session view that is different for clips is we can click this. This is called follow action. We'll do a specific video on follow action where you understand exactly what that is and what it does. It's a cool feature, but in the context of what we're doing here, we don't need to cover it. I'm going to pull this up again. Actually, I forgot to show you some really cool other features. We can click fold here. And what fold does is it just drops away all of the other MIDI notes that we could possibly draw. And it just shows us the ones that we've actually drawn in already. Okay. And then scale, look, we can basically drop away anything that wasn't inside of the scale. So actually, let me just do that again. And it just shows us the notes that are in the scale. So we can only write something that would be musically correct. Cool. So some more cool features. That's MIDI clips, okay? So next, let's take a look at audio clips, and we'll go back to the arrangement view, and I'm going to come over to Splice. I've got Splice here, and Splice is where I get a lot of my audio samples, and I've got this clip here. I'm going to click it and drag it, and I'm going to just drop it into Ableton here, and I'll come back over to Splice. Yeah, it stopped anyway. I was going to mute it, but it got to the end. Okay, so we've got this clip. I'm just zooming out so that I can see what's going on here. And audio clips are a bit different. If I select over here, the clip disappears. That's the same as MIDI, right? So I have to have it selected, but you'll notice that this looks quite different to a MIDI clip. And we're seeing the audio waveform instead. And if I click this, drag it open, we're seeing it in a bit better detail. And we've got the same features over here for start and end point, loop length. And if I drag that, you'll see that it's putting the little sort of breakpoints and it's looping it just like it was with the MIDI suite. So nothing new there, nothing different. It's this section here that starts looking a bit different. This section is giving us the name of the clip that we've got. It's giving us the sample rate, the bit depth, and whether it's a mono recording or a stereo 2-channel recording. And it's allowing us to warp the audio. And this is something that's very special about Ableton, the ability to warp audio. And there will be a dedicated video on warping audio inside of Ableton that you'll be able to watch, that you'll find in the playlist that this video is in. So we're not going to go into the detail of what warping is, but all of these parameters here, in fact, yeah, all of these are related to it, okay? This is going to allow us to enable high quality playback, okay? And this is going to allow us to load this audio sample into our computer's RAM if we're using like an older computer that's taking a long time to draw information from a hard drive. So if you've got plenty of RAM and you know your hard drive's slow, boom, you can hit that. It's going to pull it in. So if I click on the clip up the top and I press spacebar, it plays the clip from the beginning, right? And it plays it through. And I've got the ability to transpose. So transpose is going to pitch that sample up or pitch the sample down. Great. Drop that away. We've got smaller, finer adjustments to the pitch of the sound that we can make here. Return to default. We've got gain, so we can change the volume of the clip in here. And then we can actually reverse a clip, so play it backwards. And we can hit edit here. And what edit would do is it would actually open up a third-party piece of software that we've set up as our audio editing software. So this could be Audacity. If you're familiar with Audacity, it's a free audio editing software. In my example, I use Adobe Audition, and if I hit that, it's going to open Adobe Audition. I'm not going to do that right now. And this tab here is going to show us the envelope. So we will be doing a specific video on it, but just to give you a real quick example, like I mentioned it before, you can edit, for example, the gain inside of this clip. So I can draw little dots, and this is very similar to automation, which we will be covering. You may have watched the automation video already. It's going to be in the playlist that this video is part of, the Ableton 11 playlist. I can basically just change the volume by doing this, right? So I'm changing it from 100% volume down to 17% volume, right? It's getting quieter, gets louder again, gets quiet again, gets louder again. So yeah, we can draw inside of the clip different controls over different features, right? And this is associated to that. We'll cover it in that other video. I can click on the clip, press Z to zoom in. I can go ahead and chop it up, right? Something different about audio clips as opposed to MIDI clips is you can actually get volume fade. So I can drag these to fade the volume in. I can even actually sort of drag them from the other end. And actually, if I change this to a finer value, I can also drag and change the start and end point of the clip with these little dots. Cool. And what I can do is I can actually join these up again, and I can grab that and I can crossfade between certain pieces of audio, which is very cool. And I can adjust the way that it's fading from one clip into another, right? And it's all just done by clicking and dragging. So I can click and drag. And there's some quirks to getting this right. You'll have to learn how to get it working properly. There we go. Okay. That way. So yeah, you can have fun with that and you can warp them all up. But yeah, I cut that in half by going Control E. Again, we can go Control D to duplicate. We can go Control C. We can go Control Paste, etc., etc., etc. All right. So that is audio and MIDI clip inside of Ableton Live. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in another video.